Good evening to all of you, parents, teachers, school principals, students, and all of us together gathered today to address a very, very important area, which is about the security of all the tools which we currently use in our schools. Today, specifically, we are going to talk about Google Classroom, we're going to talk about Google Chrome, and we have got very, very two solid expert resources with us today. One is Vinod from Google. Let me introduce Vinod. Vinod has been part of the Google team and really working very, very closely with us in different areas to strengthen our schools. Thank you, Vinod, for finding time to come today, Vinod.
It's absolutely a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. And we also have Willie Broad, George, who himself is a practitioner. He's I think, see, he's already a techno guy, so he's actually already in a small screen inside his large screen. So, welcome, Billy Broad. Welcome, Billy Broad, to the show, and thank you so much for finding time today specifically to talk about privacy and security settings. Thank you, Vinny. So, I think we would start with Vinod. The format runs like this. We would start with Vinod. Vinod will talk a little bit about the privacy and security settings with regard to the admin console of Google Classroom. We assume that most of you are users of Google Classroom, and we are very, very particular that our children, our teachers, our schools, our parents are all safe, right? We get a lot of WhatsApp forwards here and there, and we always feel that are we really secure? So Vinod is here to address those queries. Post that, Willie Broad would join us and support us in understanding the browser which we use, right, to access different things. Now, like we always say, self-exploration is the best way to learn technology, and we welcome you after this session also to continuously self-explore so that you can get to know how whichever app you use or whichever browser you use or whichever tool you use, go into their settings, read those settings, identify which is suitable for you, which is not suitable for you, and decide on it. So finally, the power is with you and not with anyone else. So with that, I would like Vinod to start taking the session. Thank you, Vinod. Over to you, Vinod.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to present my screen and quickly I'll share the admin console. Right. So last time we have discussed, how we can go ahead and create users under G Suite for Education, where all the users will have access to all the tools we have under G Suite for Education. Now, when it comes to security, and when it comes to the policies which we can apply from admin console, so yes, one, we can absolutely take care of all the policies when we are creating Google Classroom. So policies like teachers can create class, students can join class, teachers can comment, share resources, students will be able to receive all the resources, and will be able to submit it back as soon as they're done with the assignments or the resources they receive from the teachers. So set some settings.
I would like to just interrupt here. Possibly there are possible things that sometimes there could be some parents who are probably new today, right? Probably has not attended your last time session. You want to just give a brief understanding between an admin console and as a user, just for them to know about it.
Right, sir. So yes, so as a school administrator, let's say when we apply or a school apply for an admin for G Suite for Education, they get access to all the tools we have under G Suite for Education. So quickly, I can share the tools we have like Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Drive, which is going to be unlimited for every user who has access to the school domain. So how it works, a school applies for a G Suite for Education. They register the school domain to get access to all the tools. Then they create user IDs. So it could be, for example, xyz.com is one school, So my ID will be vinod@xyz.com. So that is my unique G Suite ID, which I'm going to use all the tools we have under G Suite for Education. So quickly, I can just present one screen on the tools. These are the tools where users will have access to Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. So Docs is a word processor. For spreadsheet, we have Google Sheets. For presentations, we have Google Slides. Now, as I've mentioned, for saving your data, content, all the resources, you will have access to Google Drive. Now, this is going to be unlimited when it comes to G Suite for Education. We do have Google Jamboard, which is sort of a whiteboard, which can be used by teachers to write on a board, and then teachers can present it to the entire class. All the users will have access to Gmail for communication, so they will be able to receive notifications, send emails. Then they have access to Google Meet, which is again a video conferencing platform where they can conduct online classes. Now, in Google Meet, we do have a chat option where students can post their comments, and if they have any questions, they can use the chat window. Now, Google Classroom is the LMS, so where teachers will be able to, create all their virtual classes. So, for example, grade-wise, section-wise, subject-wise. Now, from Google Classroom, teachers will be able to share resources, will be able to give assignments to students. They can share videos with the students from Google Classroom, and they can also share graded and ungraded assignments both. So it becomes really easy for a teacher to use Google Forms to create a graded assignment, have all the questions in the Google form, and assign it and post it to all the students in the classroom. Now, we can also use Google Form to create quick survey. Let's say if you want to create a quiz, we can add videos, we can add images in Google Form, and then yes, we can use these tools from Google Classroom. The next tool is Google Keep, which is like a sort of a notepad where we can take some quick notes. However, all these tools are collaborative. Now, if I want to invite someone, maybe let's say if I want to invite another teacher to work with me on the same document, or maybe on a same sheet, or let's say if we are creating let's say a presentation, I can invite other teachers to work with me at the same time, on the same presentation or on the same sheet. So that's how we can collaborate on these tools. Next, we have Google Calendar. We all know where we can schedule all our meetings, where we can schedule all our Google Meet sessions, where teachers can share schedule with students. So we can use Google Calendar for that. And the last we have is the Google Admin Console. So this is what I'm going to cover today, because this is one console from where we can manage all the tools for all the users. So Admin Console is, I'll just show you Admin Console. It gives me multiple tabs. So from the Admin Console, I can create users, I can create groups, I can create organizational units. So that could be, we have a OU organizational unit for teacher, and then we have a OU for students, because we will have different rights and different policies for these users. From the Admin Console, we can manage the user browser settings as well. So when we talk about the Chrome browser, so today I'm going to focus more on the privacy and security settings, because when we apply, or when we get a G Suite ID, all these settings can be managed from the Admin Console. So for example, let's say if I am a student, if I have a G Suite ID, I don't really have to go to privacy and settings for my browser and make changes there. My administrator can actually manage it from one single console, and that administrator will be able to manage it for all the students we have in that school. It will be for all the students, for all the teachers. So it is like really easy for an administrator also to manage all the settings for all the users from the Admin Console itself. Now quickly I'll just cover, we can also manage the apps which we have under G Suite for Education. So when I go to apps, we have an option for G Suite where I get to see, all the apps listed, Google Classroom, Drive, Google Meet, Keep. So all these apps are listed in the Admin Console. So right now, if it's on for everyone, so that means every user has access to all these tools. However, I can make changes. If it is not required, I can disable it, or I can define rights. So for example, who can record a session, who can broadcast a session. Let's say if there's a requirement to do a live streaming, who can do a live streaming. So policies and rights like that we can define from the Admin Console. Now, as I was talking about different OUs, the organizational structure, so we can manage policies basis on OUs we have created, or maybe basis on groups we have created, or we can make changes for a specific user as well. So these are the apps listed in apps section under admin console, so we can control and make changes for these apps as well. However, when we talk about the privacy and the security settings, so I'll quickly cover that because that also we can manage from the admin console. So when it comes to the browser settings, so safe search is one example, which is like a automated filter to block, uh, the content which is not required, inappropriate content. So it is going to block all that. So that is like one example, which is safe search. Then we have another example of safe browsing, to protect from malware and phishing. So all these settings can be enabled from the admin console itself. I'll just quickly show you that. Now when I get into the Chrome management, I can go for user and browser settings. Now, from here, I can manage and enable these settings for all my users. So if you will see under user and browser settings, you will find a list of settings, including signing options. For example, we will have two-way verification, two-step verification. Then let's say program manager, just an example, we can disable that. So in that case, program manager or password manager, sorry, so passwords will not be saved by default. So that's how we can even disable that feature for all the users. Now let's say when it comes to apps and extensions, we can even manage what all apps we can enable for the students, what extensions they can use. So as an administrator, I can first add those apps and extensions in my admin console, and then I can give access to the students. So there will be different apps and different, let's say for example, we have uh, Kahoot, for example, just an example. It's if we have added an app. So let's say if we want to enable that app for grade 5, we can make those changes from the admin console. Similarly, we will have a list of apps, and we can have it. We can decide which OU should have access to that specific app. So similarly, we can have multiple apps and multiple extensions, and then we can apply these policies. So we can enable that, for a specific OU where all the users in that group will have access to that app. Now, I was talking about the security feature, so password manager, which we can block. Similarly, we will have options for browser history, clear browsing history, incognito mode. Let's say if you want to disable that, so users will not have access to use incognito mode on their devices. So again, as an administrator, I can either enable it or disable it. So I can make those changes from the admin console itself. Single sign-on is another example. Now, I was talking about safe search and safe browsing. That is again possible to enable from the admin console itself. So these are the settings. These are the list of settings you will find under user and browser settings, which you can enable for all the users you have under your domain. So as soon as they are going to log in with their G Suite ID, these policies are already applied, so they can't really get access to you know any website. Let's say if you have already created a list of whitelisted or blacklisted websites, so again you can have those URL, you can add those URLs in the admin console, so they won't have access to those websites at all. Now cookies, again, if we want to disable those options, we can disable cookie options as well. Okay. Now I just want to show you quickly. Yeah. So pop-up. So this is like again one example where you get a pop-up and you click on that, and it takes you to another website. So as an administrator, I can even disable that option. So you won't really have a pop-up option also. So you won't really get a pop-up on your device. So when you are going to use your G Suite ID, and when you are going to log in with your G Suite ID on the Chrome browser, these settings are already enabled. So you won't really find a pop-up, you won't really get a pop-up on your device. So you won't really get onto a different websites altogether. Now again, URL blocking. So I can have a list, I can add all the URLs which I really want to block for all my students. So I can add those URL list in the admin console, and it will be completely blocked for the students, so they won't really be able to use those websites at all. Similarly, I have multiple options. I can enable from the admin console. Now, yeah, bookmark we can enable because everybody can create that bookmark. let me just get to the Chrome tab. Yeah, right. So this is for Chrome Safe Browsing. Now this is where you will find Chrome's safe browsing options. So again, as I've mentioned, it is going to block all the inappropriate content when it comes to Google search. So we can enable it from the admin console itself. So as a user, I don't really have to go to the privacy settings of my account and make changes. So similarly, I can enable all these settings from the admin console from the backend itself. So one single person from one single console is going to manage all the users we are going to create under your G Suite domain. So these are the settings. I mean, it's like a list of options you have. So you can definitely create a list of websites which you want to block for your school. So you can add those URLs in the admin console, and it will be like blocked for every user. So these are the settings which we can enable from the backend. So as a user, when I will log in, I'm absolutely free to use. There is no issues I'm going to face as a user. So all the administrators can actually get into the admin console, and they can make these changes for all the users they have under that specific domain. So
So I
that's
just, Vinod, I just want to add here. So you are trying to tell me that as a parent, right? Uh, is the safety and the security of my child using Google Classroom lies with the school, right? And the school is totally working on the admin console to ensure that. Am I right?
absolutely, sir. Because when school sign up for the G Suite for education, they get access to the admin console from where they create first the user ID for the students, then they apply policies, and then from the admin console itself we can manage the settings for the users and the browser as well. So
So
not
it's
just the browser. So for
yeah.
example, let's say there are many schools, I can share some example, who are using Chromebook as a device. So now, let's say if we want to make it completely secure, so we can even manage and keep the devices as well completely secure. So we can manage all the devices we have in the school from again one single console, which is the admin console.
So it's almost like a physical school where the school ensures that the safety of the child is managed by the school when they enter the building. It's almost similar. Like when a child enters into Google Classroom, the school's admin console has the responsibility to ensure that the child is safe, right? So there's no worry
Absolutely,
about children, getting lost in, in the internet, right?
absolutely.
So what? So we've got one question where one, probably, I think she's a teacher. She's asking that do students need to download Google Classroom, and if they are changing their email IDs, how to add them to class?
So the tools which I have discussed under G Suite for Education, these are web-based. So when we are using it from a device like a laptop or a desktop, then we can just open a web browser like a Chrome browser, and we can start using these tools. But yes, if you would like to use these tools on a mobile, on a mobile phone, then yes, these are available in the app format as well. So you can find the Google Classroom app, for example, from Google Play Store, and similarly from iOS, and you can download the app on your mobile, and then yes, we can use Classroom from the mobile as well. Now when it comes to adding the users or the students in the classroom, so when we create a class, when as a teacher, when we create the class for the first time, there is a tab called People. In that People tab, we can add all the users or all the students specifically to that class. Maybe if I can just present one classroom quickly, I can show you that tab. So these are like some virtual classes I have created. So now, as I've mentioned, I can create a class maybe with a subject. I can have use grade or maybe some section. So like I have a demo class, for example. So when I get into a demo class, there's a tab for people. Now when I get into people tab, I can add students, in my classroom. So let's say if I have 30 students, I have 30 G Suite IDs. every student has their own G Suite account. So I can simply click on invite student and add them in my classroom. So this is like one-time activities. From next time when you are going to share resources or when you are going to conduct sessions using Google Classroom, all the students in your classroom will get the notification about that. So that's how we can invite students. And let's say if you want to invite another teacher to do conduct a session for the students in your class, then again we can also invite teachers using their G Suite ID. So now teachers can also come and then they can conduct a session on for the students in your classroom. So that's how we can use people tab to add email IDs of all the students for that specific class.
Okay, so there's one more question which sometimes parents ask me is that how secured is their data lying with the school, right? Because, can you clarify on that? Because they might be registering, is there a risk? It could be a myth, but I want you to clear that myth.
Right, sir. So yes, definitely. So when they register their domain, and when they create user IDs for the students and teachers, so when they conduct online classes, if they are using Google Meet or when they are using Google Classroom, so when they share resources, the data remain within the domain. Even Google does not have access to the data. So that's why we always recommend to create user ID for all the students and teachers. It's better to use G Suite ID when we compare it with a consumer account. So let's say if I have a G Suite account and if I'm entering into Google Classroom using my G Suite account, so all the resources which I'm going to share or all the resources which my teacher is going to share, that will remain within my domain. So no outsider will have access to the data. So that's how it's completely secure. And another benefit to have a G Suite account is to manage the account, because you can definitely manage a G Suite account from the admin console, but you cannot manage a consumer account.
Okay. Okay, so would you like to talk a bit about Google Meet? You know, some of the areas of which I had shared with you.
Right, sir. So yes, again, so Google Meet is like part of Google for Education solution. So yes, few things in Google Meet. You can definitely have 250 people for a video conference session. You can record your sessions, and let's say if it is required, you can even do a live streaming. Now there are many extensions available which we can use. Not just for Google Meet, but yes, there are extensions available which we can use for other tools as well. So, for example, let's say if you want to take attendance, we have an extension called Google Meet Attendance. So we can add it as an add-on or as an extension in Google Meet. It's just like a one-time activity. When you add that extension and when you are going to conduct a session on Google Meet next time, you can run that extension. It is going to take the attendance for all the participants present in that specific meet. So that is one extension we can use for taking attendance. Then yes, there are extensions for Google Form. I can take for teachers who would like to use Google Form for equations or some would like to use to write some formulas. Then yes, Equatio is another extension which we can add in Google Forms, and we can definitely write these formulas and equations in Google Form. There is another extension we can use is Kami. That is again for annotation, and you know you can use it along with Google Classroom. So these are like some extensions available, and the best way we can search for extensions in Chrome Web Store. So when you log into Chrome Web Store, it gives you an option to search, for the extension you're looking for. Maybe you can search it with the subject, or maybe the use case. So let's say if we are looking for equations, so maybe we can type Google Form equations. So it will give you a list of apps and extensions. So it's absolutely safe to use from Chrome Web Store.
So, she's back with a response. Bhagyashree, who had asked the previous question, she just started saying that after inviting students, parents are changing because of some issues. What to do in that case? I think maybe they are changing the email addresses.
I think they're just changing the account name, sir. So it's a option in the admin console, as I've shared the details about the user and browser settings. Similarly, we have an option where we can disable that, so students or parents will not be able to even change that. So again, I request you to connect with the school administrator, and they can definitely disable that option from the admin console, so they won't be able to change that.
Now, usually a school, how many administrators are there usually in a typical school handling the Google Classroom? Is it
Sir,
one?
as per
Yeah.
I have
Yes.
what I've seen. There are multiple. It depends again on the school. So maybe we can have one super admin who has access to everything. Then we can have multiple admins with different roles, because in the admin console we can even add multiple admins and we can define their roles. So let's say one is going to manage only users, one is going to manage the security part, one is going to manage the devices part. So we can have multiple admins with different roles assigned to them.
Okay, that's a good idea. We have a
Right.
question here. If I, as a teacher, add any materials from my Google Drive to my classroom, can the child download it? She starts, if she adds a PPT in her into the Google Classroom, can a child
Right.
download it? Yeah.
So yes, again there is an option. So let's say when we do it, from classwork tab, so it gives an option. You know, if it is going to create a copy for every student, so they will be able to work or maybe download on that specific copy, or if they want to work as a as a team, or if it is going to be a collaborative activity. So there are again options. So when you are going to add that material or resources in the classroom, then yes, you can select and enable that. So if they want to just work as a team, or collaborate on the same document and work on the same document, or if they want to make a specific copy for every student, so yes, we can enable that option, sir.
Okay. There have been some schools have been telling that sometimes they get some people who are not from their domain, right, entering. Like I can see one comment saying that sometimes I see an unknown user in my classroom. What could be the possible reasons be for that?
Right, sir. So again, sir, in the admin console, like I was discussing about the apps under G Suite, so there are chances if that option is not enabled. So users from maybe using a consumer account or a different account can actually join the class. So we can even block that. So in Google Admin Console, when we go to G Suite apps under Classroom, there is an option which we can select only the students or the users with my domain ID or the school domain ID can join the class. So we can enable that option, and yes, no outsider will be able to join the class in that case. So again, we can make that change in the admin console.
So I think admin console is such an important thing, right? Because you need to really. I think I would recommend all the principals also to really sit and look at each and every point and decide and probably elevate the roles, right, which you can give to people. You might be by mistake just giving it to a computer teacher to handle the admin console who might not understand the importance of the data and the security. So I think that's a good perspective for the principals, and a good reflection for them.
Right.
Anything else you would like to add value to before I invite Billy Broad? Any other
Uh,
point?
yes, sir. As you have mentioned, absolutely correct. So we should have one dedicated person, who should have access to admin console, and he should be managing all the users, all the settings, and all the policies which are going to be used by students and teachers. Because it is really important, because when you are creating IDs and giving access to the tools, so it's our responsibility to make it completely secure. So as a school administrator, yes, we should take that responsibility, and using the admin console, we can keep it completely secure. So that's all from my answer.
So thank you so much, Vinod, for your time. Now let me quickly invite Billy Broad. Hi, Billy. Welcome back.
Hi, welcome.
Over to you, Billy. Thank you, Vinod.
Thank you so much, Vinod. That was a really nice talk, and it's really nice to see that there are so many features that are available in, the Google Admin Console. And really, I think every time we look at Google Admin Console, we are finding more and more things that we can use as a school and as school leadership. So I think I want to talk more about the safety of how we can keep our children safe online and how we can ensure that our children are, you know, yeah, we are not robbing them of their childhood. Let's put it that way. If your school has Google Classroom, if your school is using Google Apps, then a lot of the responsibility when it comes to safety is at the side of the system administrator of the school, and the system administrator is somebody who handles the entire Google Apps, whatever you saw just now that Mr. Vinod showed you. You want to understand two or three things. One is that schools are also new. Many schools are very, very new. बहुत नए हैं ये सारे schools, and these schools may not necessarily, they may understand how to physically secure children and physically secure their school, but they may not understand how to virtually secure them. So not all schools have system administrators, people who understand technology, people who understand safety, people who understand what are the best practices. And hence these schools may have certain issues when it comes to handling this. And the only way these schools are going to learn is through bad experiences. And we don't want to create such bad experiences. So as a parent, I want to talk to you. As a teacher, I want to talk to you and talk to you about how you can keep your children safe online. So let me see if I can quickly show you my screen. Right. So we're talking about how do we keep children safe. So one of the things is in Google search. Your children are going to be using Google a lot, right? And we are assuming that in cases where you have Google Classroom or in cases where you don't have, there are thousands of schools today who don't have Google Classroom. And because of that, they're just sending information over WhatsApp, or they're doing Zoom classes, or they're doing Google Meet, or they're doing any of these different services that are available for parents today. Or if your school is using Google Classroom, it means your school went through a very, a diligent process, and they almost took 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the access to the Google Classroom. Let's talk about all the other schools as well. So many people may not know that Google actually has a separate search engine called Kiddle. So it's Kiddle. Let me bring it up on screen right now. And you will see Kiddle is actually a software which is a safe search engine for children. So you can ask your children just to use Kiddle instead of Google, right? That'll ensure two things. One, you're able to, Google knows that it's a student or it's a child who's using the system, so it ensures that it only sends, relevant information. For example, if I hit space, then I will get, Kiddle related information on space, interesting facts. So children can do their research, children can do their projects, everything using Kiddle. They don't need to use Google, the standard Google search, because this is a really nice software to use. So that is one option that you have. The second option, as Vinod sir told you, is about the safe search option. What if you're not part of a Google Classroom, right? And if your child is going to be doing online research, so you want to look at the safe search option. So how do you set up the safe searches? Let's say you go to, I'm going to show you my screen. So let's say you go here to Google, and one of the things that is very important for parents and teachers to understand is that you should not get involved when it comes to safety. When it comes to safety and when it comes to security, it is very, very important that you take an active interest in understanding all the systems and settings and preferences. Because if you don't understand all the things, all the places where possible leakages happen, that's the place where your child might fall or become prey or become a victim. So as a parent, I don't like to skip through these things. I want you to do your own research, and I want you to do your own fact finding. So if you just go to Google and hit safe search in Chrome, it tells you exactly, right? It tells you how do you go and set it up, like filter explicit results. How do you set up safe search? So this is what I want you to do, right? I'm inviting you to go online and go to Google and hit safe search. So that will tell you how to use safe search in Google app, how to use it on a phone browser, a tablet browser, on Android TV. This is important. I can just give you the answer straight away, but I'd much rather have you go and look at it, because when it comes to safety and securing your children, it is very, very important for you to do it on your own. So next thing is within the Google Chrome itself. Like if you go to Google Chrome, right, you have you on this side, there are the three buttons, and then you have the settings. Within the settings, you will be able to see a lot of different features here. Let me just zoom it up a little bit. And you will start seeing that you can actually log in using a username and a password. This is one possibility for you, right? If you create a username and password if you create a new account for your child, you have to look at the different laws in the world, but I think 13 is the minimum age for you to have an email ID. However, if you want to create an email ID which is less than 13, when your child is less than 13, then you can create a parent linked email ID, and that is fantastic. So one of the things that you should do is go and check out how to set up parent linked ID for children. That ensures that all the safety and security features, like the way you saw on Google Admin, is available for you as a parent to manage your own children's ID. And once you set up an ID like that, you can log into that using Chrome and then turn sync on, right? That's going to help you. And Google will then understand that the person who's using the Chrome right now is a child, and hence it will ensure that it will be able to make sure that the right content reaches the child. You want to make sure that passwords are never put into the system and saved. You want to ensure that Google has a system of a safety check, so you can run a check now. There's a check now button, and you can do your safety checks over here. So these are some very, very interesting points that you can look at. One of the options is just turn off the search. Google can also allow you to do voice search. So a child can, if a child heard certain things, and he can just use the voice search option, and things might come up which may not be the best for the child at, given his age. So sync profile is discussed, and creating child ID and linking with parents. So you can check my screen now. If you go to families.google.com, you can actually sign up as a whole family online. So you can have father, mother, so your email IDs are there, and under the father and mother, you will be able to set up your children's email ID. And now you will get a certain level of access that you would otherwise have not got, and you can control your children's activity online. You can monitor their activity. So this is brilliant. I personally use this to take care of my daughters. So take a look at families.google.com. So I'm going to move forward. The next thing is YouTube. A lot of learning now that parents are getting from schools online is coming as YouTube videos. So for YouTube, I've opened up a document for you, which will really help you see, how we can make sure YouTube is safe. So there are 2 or 3 things that you need to make sure. One, there is a different app altogether for children called YouTube Kids. So I recommend you download YouTube Kids on your phone, and not just the YouTube. YouTube Kids again allows you to ensure that the relevant material comes to children. Advertisements will still come, but these advertisements may be for toys. There won't be advertisements for beverages or drinks or things like that. It'll also help you select good content. You can manage viewing time. There are restrictions. A lot of the times, we recommend parents watch content with children together. So that is very important. Again, I've taken this information from National Online Safety. So if you go to this website, you'll be able to actually find all this information. But keep this in mind that there is something called as YouTube Kids. Again, for YouTube, if you're using normal YouTube and not only YouTube Kids, and if you're using it from a phone, then within your YouTube app, right, you can actually go to your YouTube app, and I don't know if you're able to see it, but you can go to the settings app, right? Once you go to the settings, in the settings, you go to general. Under general, if you scroll down, you'll see something called as a restricted mode. If you switch on the restricted mode on, if you toggle it on, that is going to be able to, block quite a lot of unnecessary content from hitting your children, even when it is on your mobile, normal YouTube mobile. You want to ensure that you're watching what children are watching. So you want to ask them questions. You want to ask, have conversations and dialogues around it. In case your child is going to upload any video, then you are definitely risking the privacy of your children. So you want to be careful about that. You want to watch for any comments that they have. You want to watch for cyberbullying. You want to know, what are the channels that they're watching. And really, this is beautiful, right? Don't assume that your child is too young. Don't think that ye to bacha hai, ye kya karega. No, that's where the problem is, right? So you want to be very, very careful uh, when it comes to that. The next thing I want to talk about is WhatsApp, because a lot of people are talking about, a lot of schools are sending information via WhatsApp. So I'm seeing like many teachers, see, you cannot blame teachers. Teachers are also new, and anything that is new has novelty, and anything that has novelty has a lot of excitement. And anytime you're very excited, the chances of you making mistakes are very high, which means that, I've seen so many parents, even the child, even from the school where my daughter goes to, the teacher sends out messages saying, send us photographs of your child holding a rainbow like this. I mean, that is absolutely unacceptable, because you are asking us to send a photograph of a child, right, with her work, and that's going to go onto WhatsApp, which is a public forum. There are 30, 40 other people on that group. We don't know who these people are. We don't know if it is secure. And that is absolute invasion of privacy. So one, as a teacher, if you're a teacher and watching now, kindly don't make such requests, because that is not something because when you do it, people think it is the norm. People think that, this is normalization, right? People think it's okay. And when children see parents are doing things like this, as parents, you have given bad examples to children. You want to ensure that children are protecting their identity online, because you don't know what kind of vultures or creatures are there online for children, and you want to be very, 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 very careful, because children don't know how to protect themselves. It is important that we teach them how to protect themselves. So ensure that when you're, as a teacher, if you're saying, you're calling for work, just call for the work. Don't call for the photos. If someone comes to your school today and enters your office and tells you, "Mereko ye bacche ka photo do," are you going to give the photo? No. Even if it is the mother of a child, of a colleague, you're not going to do that. Then why are you doing this online? So keep that in mind, parents. Please note that just because a teacher has asked you something doesn't mean you have to actually send it. You have to use your own common sense, because the teacher on the other end is also learning. Teachers, I hope you've learned now. So make sure that you don't do things like that. Principals, ensure you don't enforce your teachers from doing things like these, right? So you want to be careful about that. About WhatsApp also, I'm happy to show you something on WhatsApp. This is how you can keep, certain things that you want to be careful about. In online safety and security, we talk about surfacing. When a child is deep down means within a firewall system or within a game or within an application, the child is down. So a predator or somebody who's trying to attack this child, they cannot see this child. But there is a concept of surfacing. When you try and get the child up, when you try and get him up to the top so that you can then ask a number or a location, that's the dangerous part. So you want to make sure, you want to watch that live location sharing is not on. For example, if I just tell a child, on WhatsApp, saying that aapka, switch on your live location, boom, immediately I got the location of that child. And that is super dangerous. So you want to be very, very, very careful. So ensure that live location sharing is not on, your GPS settings are off, connecting with strangers, very this thing. You got to tell your children that you're not allowed to chat with any random person, even if they say, I'm your friend's father, I'm your friend's mother. No, absolute no, that is not something that you can do. You want to ensure that you're talking to your children about fake news and hoaxes and giving them that understanding of this could be an ad or this could be, material which is not for you. Ensure that, look at scam messages, age limit change. These are things that you want to make sure that, that WhatsApp, when you're using WhatsApp, you want to make sure that these are things that you can also block people on WhatsApp. So if you want to block people on WhatsApp, that is a great thing for you to do. Moving on to the other things like social emotion. It's very important at this stage that parents, because parents have to become, teachers are not going to be in a position to be role models for online safety, for online netizenship, or for digital citizenship. Teachers are also learning. Right now we have teachers and children learning at the same time. So parents have to ensure that they set the ground rules. Parents have to ensure that they understand technology. And all you have to do is a little bit of Google search, a little bit of reading, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of discussion. And you will learn these things, and the habits that you set online are the habits that your children are going to think through. Now you will have trouble, I'll tell you. Like, my daughter says, why is my photo not there? In the group, all the other children are sending their photos. Why is my photo not there? Or why is, when there is a Google Meet class going on for my daughter, I keep my video off. And she's like, why is my video off? Because everybody else's video is on. I want to be seen. Now, it's very, she may feel bad, he or she may feel bad, but we have to explain to them that your privacy is your responsibility. We need to ensure that you are kept safe, right? And so parents have this great opportunity. So I wanted to also kind of show you certain strategies that you can use to talk to children. Yeah. And these are all part of training programs that we have done with our teachers in our school. So we are orienting them. So if you're a principal watching this, so you want to be thinking of these kind of orientations as well for your teachers, right? 7 questions to help start a conversation with your child about online safety, right? You got to ask them questions like, when you're having dinner or lunch, try and avoid switching the television on, and then ask them questions. What apps are you using? What games are you using, right? That will allow you to scan these games and apps and see, is there any risk in these games? Or what websites do you enjoy and why? Or how does this game app work? Can I play it? Can you show me? Can you tell me? Because the other day I was using my phone, and suddenly I got this pop-up which said that, would you like to sing along with me? And I was like, what is that? And I asked my daughter, and my daughter said, that this is an app that people can just connect with me and say, hey, do you want to sing together? And so my daughter's like, this is a singing app. Now that is very, very dangerous. So I started watching. So I started asking this question to her, saying that, hey, can you show me all the games you're playing? Can you, are you talking to anyone? Right? And also, children have this habit, when they take your phone to play a game, they'll go somewhere else where you are not there, where you cannot be, where you cannot monitor them and when you cannot see them. Of course, they're doing it for their own privacy. But what they're also trying to do is to ensure that, because if you see them, then you may stop them from using it once, it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So they want to get as much time that they can use the app for. So you want to be careful about that. You want to make sure that these are, that it's done under supervision. You want to ask them questions like, do you have any online friends? Where are they from? How did you become friendly with them? What do you discuss about? What do you talk when? These are things very important. Where, do you know where to go for help? In case something goes wrong, do you know whom to ask, what to do? And do you know what is your personal information? Like, you have to ask a child, even a first standard child, you have to ask, do you know what is personal information? Do you know that your father's name, your mother's name, your address, your building name, your flat number, your wing, your location, your telephone number, your credit card detail, anything? This is all personal information. If somebody comes and asks your child, बेटा जरा वो तेरे डैडी के पास ऐसा एक कार्ड होगा, वो कार्ड के ऊपर एक नंबर है, वो नंबर जरा बताओ, तुमको नंबर्स आता है क्या? तुमको 1 to 50 आता है? दिखाओ मेरे को, बताओ. There are so many ways that people can social engineer children. So you want to ensure that you have trained your child in a way whereby the child can also protect himself or herself in a situation like that. So you want to ensure that, do you know your limits? Do you know what are your limits? So these are excellent questions that you can start talking to with your child, so that children are, socially and emotionally ready for having discussions. Now there are live views. Many schools are doing live lessons, as I said, using maybe Microsoft Meet or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or Zoom, or maybe the Geo Meet that is started now. So you want to think about the camera, you want to think about the view, you want to think about what your child is wearing, you want to think about, do you really want the camera on? Because I personally think that the camera should not be on, right? You want to think about these features, and some more information for you about live lesson safety. This is about live lesson safety, certain things that you want to think about. Here are what teachers should consider, right? The conduct of the teacher. How is the teacher sitting? What is she doing? Who is she talking to? When is she asking? Because when a teacher suddenly starts saying, okay, Ayan, you answer, okay, Niharika, you answer, the other children who didn't get an opportunity also start really worrying. The communication, the content. What do parents need to consider? Again, conduct, communication, and content, right? How is it that your child is behaving? What is your, what is your child doing? What is visible in the background? And so many things. The communication is that when your child is part of an online lesson, do they need any support when it comes to the software that probably teachers are using? Maybe teachers are sending them some some PowerPoint presentations or some video links on YouTube. Now, if a teacher sends a video link using Google Classroom, no problem, because Google knows that this link has come from Google Classroom, so it knows it is going to a child. But in case your school doesn't have Google Classroom and your teacher is just sending a link, then Google doesn't know that who's going to be the final consumer of this content, and then they may start sending recommended videos, ads, and things like that, which may not be appropriate for your children. So this is again, certain things that you want to think about. And of course, there are Zoom specific, Google Meet specific, Skype specific, and Microsoft's Team specific aspects for you to be aware of. So go online and see how you can, as a parent, go online and see how you can protect the safety of your child. You want to ensure that right now everyone is excited. Everyone wants to show that they are online and they're doing this thing. Oh, देखो मेरा बच्चे ने 4 word लिखा तो मैंने photo निकाल के मेरे WhatsApp पे डाल दिया, या मैंने Facebook पे डाल दिया, and 25 people see it. But then your child doesn't realize what he's doing, or the child develops a wrong habit. So you want to be very careful. And the last thing is your home devices. Because now a lot of classes and learning is happening online, everyone is going and buying new routers and new Wi-Fi connections, and sometimes you may buy extender routers, extensions and repeaters, and that's where the problem happens, right? So you want to ensure that you understand how do you protect your Wi-Fi within the house. What is the meaning of Internet of Things? There was this funny article online which said that there was a BBC radio ad, I think, which said something like "Okay Google" or something in the talk, and then all the internet devices or all these Google-enabled devices in everyone's phones were suddenly going like, tell us what to do, right? So that is a breach. That is a security breach. So you want to ensure that, Alexa, if you're using Alexa, or if you're using Google, or if you have your phone on a mode where it's always listening, these are always security threats. Check your encryption setting, rename your gateway, keep a good password so that people can't access your Wi-Fi connection. Make sure that you have a separate network for guests, because so many times whenever a guest comes to your house, he's going to say, "Arey, password do na jara," and then you end up giving your password, right? So you want to see that, you want to figure out if your router has a guest setting so that you can just give them the guest password. Build a wall. Build a wall means there are devices which are available to protect, pretty much like a home firewall. Secure your smartphone. Ensure that as a parent, if you are using the phone and you're an adult, so you might be looking at content designed for you, but if you can try and use Google Chrome in incognito mode, then it just allows anything that you are watching to quickly vanish, so that when your child uses it, your child doesn't get access to things. You can put a password lock on WhatsApp, so that no one can get into WhatsApp directly, because you may have your friends who may decide to send you some funny pictures which you don't want to be showing your children. So these are all things that you can take care of. Deactivate any unnecessary feature. Just keep what is necessary. I would say adopt a method of minimalism when it comes to technology. Say goodbye to Siri and Alexa and all these things that is necessary. So I think I just wanted to give you a quick idea about what are the different aspects of safety when you are part of a online learning platform, but maybe your school hasn't been able to migrate to Google Classroom or anything like that. And so it's important that you take on that responsibility. End of the day, safety is your own responsibility. So you need to make sure that you're keeping yourself and your children safe. Over to Francis, sir.
Thank you, Billy.
Were you able to see my screen?
So quick, and thank you. In spite of having challenges of electricity, yeah, we could. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, yeah. So, due to the heavy rains, I know you are facing problems of electricity, but somehow you managed to come up and do this show today. Similarly, here also we have got internet issues happening. So, technology is very, you need to be ready with a backup plan, right? Because you cannot be very sure that technology will support you. Sometimes it actually ditches you at the right time. So I think we have to be very well prepared, and we have to be ready for such a scenario. And in a general classroom also, when children all gather together, there are possibilities of children, automatically the internet going off, and teacher losing the internet. I think, but by now teachers have got used to it so much. One specific question I have is really is we have heard that many of these tools, like you spoke about voice, right? Many of these tools can actually hear your conversations. I don't know whether it's true or false, uh, and I landed up checking on it and seeing whether it really happens. And I actually tried to disable some of the things in my settings, which was actually allowing those tools to listen to my conversation. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
So there are, you have to understand that all these, at least that's the way I look at it. My opinion is all these technologies are actually good, because what if there are people with eyesight issues? What if there are people with typing issues? These are all accessibility features for people with special needs, and so the engineers are always trying to make sure that technology and internet and devices, they're all very intuitive, and they don't want the idea is to make it inclusive. My daughter, there could be a 3-year-old child who just kind of presses the voice button and says Peppa Pig, and boom, she gets what she wants. So I mean, that is the essence of technology. So I am very happy about these features that are there. It's just that we want to stick to minimalism, right? When we, as children, as parents of children, we want to ensure that we only keep things that are on. It's very important that these softwares are on, because they're trying to listen to your language. They're trying to build natural language processing algorithms so that it becomes easier. Because when you say, Alexa, call me book a cab, you also expect the system to recognize your voice. At the same time, you don't want to train your system, you don't want to train your device. That's really unfair, right? So you want to ensure that these things are switched off, and when your children are around. That's the way I look at it. um, and also remember, whenever you download an app on Play Store, it generally asks for all the permissions. So while you give all the permissions to download it, you are able to go to the app settings and then look at the specific sensors that it has, and then switch off everything. So these things we need to keep. We need to, if I give you 5 lakh rupees in cash today, you won't put it on Facebook, right? You know how to protect it. So in the same way, protect your children, and don't do something foolish.
So I think, yeah, I think you're so right, because as parents we have such a large responsibility, right, to protect our own children, not just depend on schools, not depend on the community to protect your children, right? Because the tools are given by you. They spend a lot of time at home, and now when they say that they are actually on sitting on a laptop, you allow them because online teaching and learning is happening. That was not the scenario before. Now they've got a green signal to actually sit on a laptop, to sit on a tablet, uh, you know. So, do you have some ground rules at home? Like I know your family very well, and I'm sure you must have set up some ground rules at home, on that don't go to a corner and actually sit on a tab. Use the open space right at home. So, some of these kind of ground rules which you follow at home.
So I have to be honest with you. I keep listening to so many parents who say, "मेरा बच्चा mobile use नहीं करता है, मेरा बच्चा screen time use." I don't know how you do it. I really don't know how you do it, because uh, my kids they use a they use a lot of the internet, and they use a lot of the devices, and they use a lot of apps. Um, and I am upset, right? Because I want them to kind of disconnect from that. Because what happens is, these apps and these things are so interesting that life in general looks boring, you know. So if I say, let's take a walk today, in through the field, and she's like, what? That's so boring, right? Because the alternative is so exciting, and it so at least when it comes to ground rules, I've realized that we cannot go cold turkey immediately. We cannot just change in an instant. We'll have to go slowly. So certain things that I've started doing is I've started telling my daughter that 15 minutes at a time. I put the clock when the alarm rings. 15 minutes of time up, come and give me my phone. So you're taking it in batches of 15 minutes. So as of now, she's got privileges to get 6 coupons. So I've even started this coupon system. I just bought a duplicating book, and I have this coupon system. Early in the morning, I give her like 4 coupons of 15 minutes each. And I give her these coupons, and I say, okay, you come and give me the coupon, and you take the phone for 15 minutes, and then you put a clock timer. And then later I realized, wow, this is a great idea, right? Because she's happy with this, because she feels like she's getting it. And then I also told her things like, you can save 1 coupon, so next day you have 5 coupons. Yeah. So she started doing things like that. And then she started saying, can I have different time coupons? So like 1 20-minute coupon and 1 10-minute coupon and 1 5-minute coupon. So I've realized that slowly, it's possible for us to do. But the ground rule is clearly you cannot buy any apps from Play Store, because my credit card is connected to the Play Store, right? So no buying apps, and no installing new apps. If you're installing new apps, it has to be under adult supervision. So me or my wife has to look at the app. Third, if you're using the mobile phone, then it has to be where mom or me is. Yeah, you have to be. You cannot go to my grandmom. She knows exactly where to go. She'll go to my grandmother. She'll go to her grandmother. No, she can't go there. She has to use it only with us, so that we are monitoring it. So we are also learning, yeah. And the thing is, they know more about it than we do. So yeah.
And I also like the idea of actually playing when they start playing the app, right? I remember years back when Pokemon Go actually came and got released in India. Not released in India, actually released in US. But people and children in India were actually playing even without being released in India. And I still remember my son telling me that, and I saw him in a corner, he was actually playing. I said, what are you playing? So he said, there's something new come up and very interesting. So I said, can I join in, right? So he said, you'll have to walk. Let's walk, And we had to actually, and that's an app which makes you walk, because you need to, go and catch Pokemons. You need to go and hunt for eggs. And we went walking. And this was probably the first day it was launched. I mean, no one in India actually knew that such a thing has come, but kids knew about it. Like adults like us didn't know about it. And when we actually started walking and we started seeing that actually the Pokemons are right in the center of the road, right? And and to pick up that Pokemon or capture, you need to actually get close to it, which is so risky, right? And then when I asked him, so then later on he just told me, can we go to the church? I was very happy that probably he's getting more religious and more more smart. Then I realized the eggs are lying in the church.
Yeah.
So all the eggs of Pokemon are kept in public places, like you go to a post office, you go to a church, temple, and the search apps are actually, so what is happening, the child goes there and he actually picks up, right? And then that's how the game is. And it is so interesting because they use VR, they use augmented reality. So you really see that, right? You really feel it, that you've actually captured a Pokemon. And when we did this journey, when we played together, we could identify which is a potential risk, and who's actually monitoring you because your location is on. The others, and you can actually see another person also playing who's actually coming closer to you. So so someone who is close to you is able to understand where you're heading. So I think, and we were actually covered in Mumbai Mirror aggressively for playing together as a family, because even the journalists didn't know something of Pokemon Go. So even before adults like us, children know about it. So I think it's our duty, and it is not childish to play with them. In my view, it is you should play. If children are liking one particular cartoon, it is nice that you should also watch it, right? So to watch the language, to watch the actions. So when you participate in that, you get to know what is good and right, what is good and wrong. and then you can actually correct your child. So I think it's being very participative with the children is very, very crucial. And I think that's the only way we can walk the journey. You can't say, oh, it's a child's cartoon, I'm not interested, I never used to watch cartoons when I was small, and this is not the right thing, and then you allow your child to watch whatever, right? So the kind of, like you said, the kind of apps they download, the kind of, it's nice to, just have a look. It's not like peeping into their life, right? Because their life is your life, right? It's all
Yeah.
interlinked, and if they are in risk, you are also in risk. You don't realize that, because your
Yeah.
location, everything is also mapped, right?
Yeah.
And most of the people who are actually connected via family, so many of the iPhones, or it's all connected, right? Most of the
Mhm.
purchases are all connected. So I think everyone is in a risk together. So I think just to let a child have his own device and sit in a corner and download any apps, it's very, very wrong. And I totally agree with you on that. And having some ground rules is very, very critical. Like you said, like, it's nice, there's no harm in sitting on a table and actually accessing technology in one table, rather than sitting in everyone's bedroom, separately, and actually accessing, what's wrong in, accessing technology together. But that's like a
Yeah.
culture in a house, right? Which one has
Mhm.
to build, right? So I
Yeah.
think my last question would be: people are worried about getting hacked, and your data getting, someone else picking up your data, in spite of our data moving all across the world free of cost. But we are very worried about our data on our computer, right? How do you protect your data, which is in your computer, when you actually access internet? Probably you're making a bank transaction, you're buying something, uh, you know what is the way? And also quickly mention that how do you actually make your password, because nowadays you need to remember so many passwords, because everything has got a password. How do you actually do that?
Um, one is, don't have sensitive data on your in your computer. Some people do the foolish mistake of keeping an Excel sheet with all their passwords. So Kotak Mahindra Bank login password, mother's name, yeah, very organized. And then this file is also called password. XLS. So I mean, don't do things like that. There are rookie mistakes. I personally use a software. I have to pay some, I think, $9 a year, and I put all my passwords there. So all my passwords are in the software, and it's a two-factor authorization. This thing, and it's a system that if I forget my login name and password to this system, then even they cannot help me. Okay, so it's absolutely secure. And I have all my insurances, my bank accounts, all my passwords, everything is there in that system. And then I've shared that with my wife, so that my wife has access to everything: my insurance, my medical insurance, life insurance, bank account transactions, bank passwords, everything. Because if anything was to happen, right, we don't know what is God's plan, but instantly she has access to everything and she can continue, right? And once in 2 months or 3 months, uh, I do a little trial with her, because she doesn't like this whole idea. She's like, no, 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 I don't want, how people are like that. So I say, no, no, just log in and see, right? So once in 3 months, I just make sure that she knows how to log in, and otherwise she'll forget that there is something like this. So that is something that I would say. And second thing is, like, obviously nowadays we have two-factor authorization. We have things like SMS OTPs and stuff. So that really makes it more safe. I think banks and all are trying their level best to ensure that they have systems which really protect everything, because they have more to lose than you, right? Because if people start thinking that it is unsafe, then people will not do, and if they don't do, then banks are going to have to spend much more money to set up more branches. So they are doing things on their end, but we should not be foolish. Like, we should not share our OTP numbers with people. We should not be, putting unnecessary things online. If you have any mics or cameras on your internet devices, you want to make sure it is switched off, and things like that, because you want to make sure there's no leak. You don't want to leak information out. That is what I would suggest. Otherwise, I don't know what is the big hue and cry about my data being hacked. Unless you have something to hide, unless you have significant data to hide. You shouldn't worry
I
about
think
it too much.
I think the TFA is the authorized two-factor authorization. I think even in social media accounts you have that, and
Yeah.
getting an SMS OTP I think is the best. I mean, I use Twitter a lot, and they always tell me, the Twitter authorities always tell me that always use a TFA
Yeah.
because that's a way to protect, right? So I think, but a lot of people are still stuck on that password. You want to emphasize a little bit more on TFA for people who are not using it right now.
So I think most of the services that you use today have TFA. So look for TFA, two-factor authorization. It's when you add another mobile phone or you add another account, and sometimes they will be able to send you a code on your mobile phone at the same time. You can put that code on the system. So that's like two-factor. And so unless both your systems are compromised at the same time, you are not at risk. So you want to just keep those things in mind. And when it comes to passwords, you want to have passwords which are certainly not your name 123 or your name and your birth date. And because most of the time people think about putting passwords which are easy for them to remember, but if it's easy for them to remember, then it's easy for others to also guess, right? It's called brute force password. It's called brute force. So you want to make sure that that is not there. Try and come up with a password which is easy for you to remember in terms of a sequence. Think about sequence. Like my first 4 digits will be an alphabet, my next two will be a special character, and my last 4 will be a numeric. And my first 4, which is an alphabet, 2 will be capital and 2 will be small. Think of that formula in your head, and then maybe think of your wife or your daughter or this thing, and then you'll be able to figure that out, right? So some people do domain. For example, if I'm using Kotak Bank, I may have a password which has KTB because that's Kotak Bank, and that will become easier. But my recommendation is to use a software, and these are paid services because this is a big problem all over the world. And many people use the same password everywhere. That again is a problem, because if your password is compromised at one place, then it gets compromised everywhere else. Because there are keyboard loggers when you give your phone. Generally, don't give your phone to anybody, because if you give your phone to somebody, they can add a software which is a keyboard logger. I mean, I can come to your house and say, "Arey, sir, Francis sir, jara phone dikhana ek minute," and you may give it, and immediately I may ask you, bathroom kahan hai aapka? And I may take your phone to the bathroom. Now, what are you going to do? You're not going to knock and say, "Meko phone bahar de." Or I may tell you something like, "Sir, pani milega," and you may go inside. And by the time you go in and come out, because you're Francis, you have a very fast internet connection. 2 seconds mein main download kar lunga. And then, that app may start sending me things, right? So you want to be careful about these things. You want to be aware. You want to be conscious. Like, this is not just a phone, right? This is your credit card. This is your debit card. This is your personal information. This has everything. And I don't like to put fingerprint. I don't like to put fingerprint on my phone, because if I'm on the road and if I'm knocked out, someone can still use my fingerprint, right? So that is a risk. And I don't like to put face, because I see my daughter when I'm standing in the kitchen and trying to do something. My daughter's coming in like this. She's coming in with the phone like this, trying to like get my phone and my face, and then it opens, right? And I'm like, who opened it for you? Like, my face. So these things you want to be careful about.
Good. I mean, thank you so much, Willie. I mean, that was very interesting. I'm sure we almost exceeded 15 more minutes extra. We were supposed to finish at 6, but it was so interesting. And I think we would come back with more such discussions, and we want to really share our perspectives of being a parent and how we are bringing our ground rules for more to understand, and of course, hear more from others so that we can also learn and improve. Thank you so much. In this online world, we need to remain protected, and it's most important. Thank you so much, Vinny. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Take care.